Welcome to the bookshelf. And our author is a nurse by profession, a semi-finalist in the Bachelorette SA, and the author of Diary of a Godesss, a riveting read that aims to inspire women to pursue their dreams. And prominent in her writing is the importance of gratitude in all circumstances. And I'm joined by Pontsho Monyetsware, or Poni M, as she's affectionately known. Thank you so much for joining us, and good afternoon to you.
Thank you for having me, Cindy.
And this Diary of a Godesss, these are just your inner thoughts, reflections of different circumstances. I love the fact that you're really open with the most basic that we take for granted, stopping to smell the roses, hearing the birds sing or chirping. You know how people get so consumed with busyness of life that we forget to live.
Yes, we do forget to appreciate every moment, every day, you know, those precious moments that we take for granted, like playing in the sunshine, you know, playing in the rain, even dancing in the rain, you know. Yeah. Those are really, really important factors to look at.
And not to consider what others may think of you. I think this is what came out for me in the book, that we're so consumed about what other people may think of you, that you confine yourself, and even in your interactions, that we are not authentic. You don't open yourself up to be vulnerable. You want to portray a certain image that is not necessarily genuine.
Cindy, if you are going to live in a world wherein you're going to be worried about what another person thinks of you, then you've got still a long way to go, because really that is, you could be stopping yourself from getting some certain blessings, or you could also help somebody in your journey of being vulnerable, because we are here as women. We need to, you know, the book is also inspiring women to say we are not each other's enemies. We should be uplifting each other, you know. Yeah, that is.
And I want to come to that, where you say every woman is a goddess and deserving of royal treatment, yes, which means you need to know your value. And I want to come back to when you claimed your value, or understood that this is the standard at which you set yourself, and you appreciate, or rather how the world would then interact with you, because the world would treat you to an extent of how you value yourself. Isn't that the truth?
That is true. What I really learned more is that I need to cherish myself, you know, accept somebody, aside from somebody coming to me and saying, hey, you did well, you are this person, you know. Cindy, just to wake up every day and go to work, that is an achievement. Some people can't even pull that through. Some people are in a mental hospital. They are, you know, they cannot just go through with the basics that are required in a life, in an everyday life. They need assistance. So all those things you must take into consideration. It is tough. We need to just be there for each other as women. We need to support each other, and you know, just for being there and doing this life thing called life every day, it's hard already, and we don't need to be putting each other down.
Yeah, and talk about the power of positivity or positive thoughts, because you know you have those niggling thoughts that will creep up. As much as the world would say you're the greatest and you're so fantastic, it just takes one person to spoil your day by saying some snide remark or whatever it is. So, but it's something that you need to inculcate and remind yourself of all the time.
Yes, yes, and just have a routine of knowing what things which things lift you up. Like I know if I'm down, I will write something, and I will forget about what the world thinks of me. I will forget about what anybody thinks of me. In my corner, I will be writing. So if I think working on knowing what you love and knowing what works for you as a woman, as a human being, you know, yeah, that will inspire. You must just find inspiration, everyday inspiration.
Yeah, I like to quote one of my mentors, and in the book you also make reference to the importance of having a support structure, a sisterhood or a network of people, yes, that will challenge you, that will stretch your thinking, or even, you know, help you grow, yes, to a better version of yourself. And one of my mentors speaks to the fact that dreams do not expire. You talk about in the book, not only are you a nurse, you're a finalist, semi-finalist for Miss SA Bachelorette, but you also in your spare time, you find time to write.
Yes.
Because this is something that fuels your soul. It gives you a sense of purpose.
Yes, this fuels my soul. And let me just go into detail a little bit about Diary of a Goddess. Diary of a Goddess is inspired by a woman who is single. So in her singleness, she's lonely, she's vulnerable, so she's trying to make sense of everything. She goes through her friends' lives and she sees that, oh, they are also having their challenges. Though they are married, they also have their own challenges. She goes through to the women who are divorced. They are also having their own challenges, even her other single women. So she then realizes that, oh, I need to embrace my singleness, my singleness. You know, I need to embrace it and enjoy it because everybody else has their own challenges, regardless of whether they are in a relationship or regardless of whether they are single.
Yeah. So the singleton, I mean, you know, in itself, as you're saying, has got its benefits, you know, pros and cons, because ultimately you would rather be on your own, as one of the R&B songs says, than to be miserable in a relationship.
Yes.
And this brings me to the value that when you are in that environment and you don't feel valued, it is a toxic, tumultuous environment as a woman, and your cultural indoctrination tells you that you have to stick it out. This is what your forebears have gone through. Young people are not taking all of that anymore. You're now saying, look, we need to have a paradigm shift in how we interact as equals in a relationship.
Yes.
And how do you do that if it's still set in a patriarchal, traditional framework where women are still undervalued, so to speak?
Yes, you know, I'm just going to go back a little bit to the Mrs. Bachelorette project. This is a project that empowers women, unmarried, independent women between the ages of 25 and 50. And when I saw this advert on Instagram, I was like, wow, this sounds interesting. And then I went to the opening. I was selected. So I was intrigued by how Refilwe Mogale stood up and talked. She was also saying the same values that I stand up for, like, oh, you know, we should not put each other down, we should uplift each other as women. I was like, oh, I'm really not lost, because this is really speaking to me, you know, as a person, as a woman, and as a person who has written these books, trying to empower other women. So the reason I'm trying to say this, she found a gap. She saw a gap in the market to say this type of women who are unmarried, independent, they are not being celebrated. And she was able to open that, to create that environment, because, you know, culturally we are from a background wherein women who are celebrated are married women, married because in terms of they bring families together, and marriage is, it's, you know, you know, it's important in families.
Sacred, yes.
It's sacred. So women who are not married are not, where do they fall?
And
They
I'll
fall
come
nowhere.
to that dynamics, because it also includes if you don't have children.
Yes, also
medical
children.
reasons,
Yes.
or by choice.
Yes, yes.
And I don't know if this is just cultural in terms of the African setup, or whether it's generic. But just talking about your perspective on women in general, how we are treated. Are we in a country, in your view, that is misogynistic, that is not supportive of women, and what role do women have to play in that part? If we feel that we are undervalued or we're mistreated, do we have a role in that particular treatment of us?
Yes, we do have a role. I think empowering ourselves is the first role, because this project aims at empowering women to say, like, look, go for your dreams, be independent emotionally, financially. You must be independent. So in terms of as women in South Africa, the first thing that we can do is just to be independent, because what other resources are there except being independent? Let's fight for our freedom by being independent and going after what, you know, if you are independent, you are able to erase things like gender-based violence and any kind of abuse, because you are able to stand on your feet and say, no, I won't take this. I won't take this, I won't tolerate this.
Yeah, and I want to go back where you said that, you know, married women are more celebrated than if you're single, even in the household.
Yes.
Your voice doesn't carry weight if you're single, even if your younger sibling is the one that is married. They're the ones that seem to have more power in the negotiation table,
Yes.
or generally.
And they are listened to.
They are listened to. So let's take it to choosing a life partner. For those that, you know, still want to get married, etc. I'm not sure if the Miss Bachelorette encourages marriage, or is it just
no? We
singletons?
We do encourage marriage. We are saying if there's women who are not married and they are independent and they are matured, we are celebrating them. But we are not against marriage. No, they are not against marriage at all.
Okay, I was going to say single ladies unite and demand a living wage.
No, we are not against marriage. We are saying that this type of, I mean, what if you are a woman and marriage never came your way? And you know, you are 50 years and marriage never came your way. There is those type of
or
women.
you're widowed. Okay.
Or you're widowed. You know?
Let's empower young people. Refiwa Madzena is up next with today. But before then, just the advice for young people in choosing, especially with young girls, in choosing a partner, the values that you look into in that partner, and if there are any red flags. You know, it doesn't matter how cute or whatever background he may come from, you are the goddess and worthy of royal treatment.
Yes.
What do you look for in a partner?
First of all, if it smells like a rat, it is definitely probably a rat. Yes. If it smells like a rat, do not ignore the signs. If you have any doubt, any slighted doubts, just do not go deep. Just do not go into marriage and end up regretting and losing your life and losing your sanity. You know, we forget about our sanity. We just focused on this, you know, house with big cars, and those are the things that we must strive to mostly do for ourselves than focus on somebody doing for us, because then we go into marriages for wrong reasons. You are a goddess, you are a queen you deserve all the royalty, you deserve all the beautiful things, and you, only you, can tell yourself that, and you can make that possible.
But what about the gender roles of you know, a man needs to be the provider and you become the support structure, indoda must kind of thing? You don't subscribe to that?
I do. You know what, indoda can, but he must find me also, you know, putting in something myself. That's where, because if you are going to say indoda can, indoda must, and you are not doing anything, when he doesn't want to do it, remember, he's not your mother's child. He can change anytime and say, Pontsho, me, I don't feel that way. This is the way I feel. I don't want to see you anymore. And then your whole future is at risk. Yeah,
and I don't want to labor the point, but you're saying in selecting the partner, it needs to feel right. When there's the red flags,
you need to feel right. You need to feel right. Yeah. You need to feel safe. You need to feel, you will just feel it. Everything just needs to synchronize, and there shouldn't be any doubt to say, I saw him doing this. I saw him. He's, you know.
Yeah, we just have about enough time to talk about the Miss Bachelorette SA, which you had spoken about. It's 5 years in the making.
Yes.
And this is largely for 25 to 50-year-olds.
Yes.
I've missed it by just 4 months. But just, you know, it is a platform again for women to come out there who are eligible.
Yes.
What is the kind of, are there workshops, mentorships, and what else does the platform provide?
So we do empower women in terms of beauty, philanthropy, and we also, it is a foundation. We do have workshops in like Alexander where we give children food. We support other women in terms of empowering them. We do have empowering workshops, stuff like that.
Yeah, Pontsho, I really, really appreciate it. She's even composed a poem especially for this interview, supporting women who may be diagnosed with breast cancer or any other challenges that you may be facing. So we really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure you'll walk away with a coveted crown of Miss Bachelorette South Africa. But we're speaking to Pontsho Monyetsware, or Poni M, as she's affectionately known,